Hey guys, and welcome back to the INSITE channel. My name is Freddy or Grimmy Rana, and today we have yet another very exciting episode. Today in the Crosshair, we have Heccu. You might know her for her involvement in some of the biggest CS events in the world, or for her alter ego as being a Christmas tree. The very esteemed interviewer joins us today for Interviewer Inception, and it's actually a part 2 episode. Some of you may know, we did an interview over at IM Katowice a couple months ago, and in that interview we talked about your career and in general your regional scene, the Latvian scene. So today we're going to be taking a little bit more of a dive into specifically women's CS because we didn't get a chance to talk about that part really that much in the interview as we got cut off, because I remember people were like, hey, can we use the press room please?
Are you done yet? Are you done yet?
It was like every 5 minutes or the last 20 minutes was just like, hurry up. But we were like, okay, cool. But before we go any further, Heccu, I just want to ask, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. The weather for a change is actually like really good outside. So like, I started the day. Okay, I'm still kind of jet lagged. I'm just, or maybe like I'm just making an excuse for like waking up at 12 o'clock. But got up, went outside, got to enjoy the sun. So doing pretty good.
It's starting, yeah. It's that time of year now where everyone's like, oh, it's actually kind of warm. Like all the interviews, t-shirt weather. It's nice for once.
It is. It's like fine. It finally feels like spring, even though it's kind of already May, and it's kind of like kind of getting close to the end of spring. But here it feels like, hey, it's finally spring.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm really hoping that I'm at the stage now where events aren't freezing cold. Because I remember at Katowice specifically, like, oh, it was so cold. It was freezing, and actually snowed at one stage, I think, as well. But before we get into the actual interview question,
I would just want to interrupt you. So you're saying like you just want the events to not be cold? Then I would not recommend you to go to NA, specifically to
really?
US, because like then you go to Dallas and it's 35 degrees outside. It's like super humid. You go inside of the venue and it is like 17 and dry, and you need to wear
Oh
a coat.
yeah.
So if you actually want to be warm, try to avoid those countries that abuse aircon.
That's a that is the first nugget of knowledge from this information, from this interview. But before we actually get an interview, there was something that we missed out in part 1, and that is the Torzsi incident.
Yes.
You explained it to me off camera, but we didn't actually get a chance to like talk about it in the interview. So a little recap: you were doing interviews for like not for anyone, for yourself, your YouTube channel, at the We Play Academy League, the finals, and you did an interview with Torzsi, and there's a story behind it. So I'm gonna give you the road.
So first of all, I'll just to explain, like, yeah, like I was like traveling to Vplay, like to I'm saying like, traveling because like I went like a few times, like specifically for the finals, and I would just record interviews on my own. Like I would set up a camera, just like Grimly like did, like
Yeah.
we that way how like we talk like in the first part. Yeah, when you set up the camera on your own, and unlike him, I did not have the luxury of a wireless microphone. I did like it the old way where you have your microphone, you have the 3.5, you plug it into the camera, and it works fine. Supposedly it works fine. So I record like a few interviews, and I record an interview with Torzsi because like I really wanted to talk to him because previously when I was like doing interviews online, I did an interview with Coolio, and they together played like in Budapest 5. So I was like really excited, especially since like during the Vplay Academy League, whenever Torzsi would play, there would be like people would be like super happy and stuff like that. Wait, yeah. I'm just like making sure I'm not confusing them. Yes. Because I was like, wait, am I confusing with Regali? No, Regali is
No,
Romanian.
Coolio, yeah,
We're still good.
Coolio, yeah.
We're still good. I know my Balkans. We're still good. uh, so the day ends. I arrive to my room in Kiev. I open my laptop. I put in the USB and a USB like the card, and I was like, okay, I need to upload the video. I mean, which means I need to put in Vegas, like just to put like some minor things, the names, the nicknames, things like opening, finish, everything good. I put it in. I put the file into Vegas. I was like, oh, Vegas is like misbehaving. It doesn't have sound. Then I opened the file separately, and there's no sound. I was like, oh, my laptop is misbehaving. It's not producing any sounds. I open YouTube, and there's sound. I'm like, no, Don't no. So basically, what happened that at some point during the interview, and it was somewhere in the beginning because the whole thing does not have sound, like the microphone got unplugged or something like that, and because it got unplugged, but when the video was already being recorded, it did not even turn on the microphone that's like built into the
Yeah.
camera. So the whole thing is muted, and we're having a great time. You know, like you can see like us laughing, just like talking. Everything is good, but you have no idea what we're talking about because it's like fully muted. And I was like, no. And I know it was such a good interview, and now I face the fact that okay, either there's not gonna be an interview, or I need to go back into my DMs with Torzsi and explaining him that I'm a buffoon and can we make another interview? So if you check my YouTube channel, you'll know like that. Yes, I came over and I said like, sorry, can we make another one? And he's such a nice guy. He's like, yeah, sure, like no problem. So one more time, Torzsi, thank you very much for giving me two interviews like in 2 days. But yeah, basically, I don't know like what is the conclusion that people need to make in this scenario. Like maybe use like wireless microphones, something like
Double
that.
check.
Double check because it was fine. It looked as if it was all good. It was the first time when it failed me.
Yeah, it's actually really terrifying. I remember when we did our interview, like I hadn't done an interview that long with any of the equipment before, so I had no idea how long the battery life on the microphones were. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know, we might be recording, and like I just continued like we were, and luckily it did.
And while we were sitting, because like you had like the two cameras set up, and I saw like the, you know, you didn't have like a dummy battery, so you actually had like proper batteries plugged in. And I was like, sometimes I was looking at the camera, I was like, I wonder if they're still filming, because my camera would really say no like a long time ago. But I was like, I mean, I was like, you're the professional, you're the one in charge, like it's you know.
Professional.
But,
I knew the camera was good enough. I as in like I knew the camera would be fine, but I didn't know if the microphones would be fine. That's what I was scared about. That was like the one part I was like, ooh, I hope this works. But yeah, that was a story that I was like, we have to tell this. We have to tell this before we
yeah,
continue. So now, as I said, I think this episode is going to be a lot more in depth about women's CS in general because we've already like normally in this series we'd like talk about your career, but you've already done that. So I just want to start off with kind of like early days women's CS. It's like all pre ESL Impact. Were you following women's CS at all, or did you have any involvement with it?
no, I did not follow. One of the reasons for that is because I didn't really follow CS that much.
Hmm.
So that's like why I kind of say like, oh, like like I am an OG. I've been involved in this way for such a super long time. Because when it comes to even in, I think in the first video I mentioned, when it comes to CS, I actually got involved like fully in like 2019, because previously it was kind of somewhere like around me. It was always
Yeah.
close, but I never fully committed to it. So that's like the same thing that happened like to women's CS. Like so, first I started like watching CS. Like those only like big events.
Yeah.
I was like watching like Katowice, Cologne, majors and stuff like that. And that's like 2019. And then 2020 happens, and obviously I started like watching more and more things. But that's when women's CS kind of stopped, because there were like no lands. There was like nothing happening. There's like even why you can say like my opening monologue during the Dallas Impact, that was like the first Dallas Impact like a year ago, was we waited for this for 3 years because there were no lands, like no one was like really playing against each other. And like, every player that I was asking during media day, hey, who you want to play against? Everyone's like, CLG Red, CLG Red, CLG Red, because like the powerhouse, there were the ones like somewhere like in the top when before like the pandemic. And then I mean, Nigma Galaxy happened, and they're still happening. Uh, but yeah, but it just happened that like the moment when I got into the scene, I was not yet involved, kind of like in all of the scene. And when I actually like went like super deep, it was like not developing at that moment. So things like to Impact right now, it's like growing, growing, and growing. But yeah, unfortunately, you can say I only like relatively not so long ago got involved like into women's CS.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough because especially if like someone is on the outskirts of CS and in 2019 when women's CS wasn't as uh popular and it wasn't as like publicized either, like it's actually was something that was like genuinely hard to find out about. So I think it's fair enough. So looking back at like even though you weren't maybe around at that time but you are now, what do you think are some of the main reasons that it wasn't flourishing back then in like 2019 when it did have like the Copenhagen game lands and stuff like that? What do you think are some of the main reasons that like now it's just blown up?
Mm, I mean, if I had to guess, it's probably how involved is ESL. If I
Yeah.
had to guess, right? I again, there's like I didn't like doing any kind of in-depth analysis. But if I had like to speculate, I would say it's probably the fact that like ESL like, show like so much interest in the scene, and because of that, a lot of organizations showed interest. You know, all of a sudden, Astralis has a team, NIP has a team. Like all of the big orgs actually have now like a second or a third roster if they have like an academy team.
Yeah.
So which is like super because like also like not actually there's like a list you can keep on going. Like it's actually like insane. So I would say probably it's like this initiative from ESL that maybe we're kind of lacking because even like right now, for the first like few seasons, not all of the games were on HLTV, but now Impact is also like on HLTV, which
Mm.
makes it easier for people to actually find out that there's, you know, like there's like impact because
Yeah.
before like oh like, you maybe like you open the HLTV like oh there's a new article, oh impact, what is impact, and that's how you find out. But now if for example you like you're curious like I want to watch something like nothing big is happening right now, you look like oh who's that like and you just like watch it and you get to
Yeah.
find out, which is amazing.
You think having like the big organization names is also like obviously, you know, they bring in organization and all that stuff, like naturally money, like it helps in that stability. But do you think like having that HLTV part and you have the organizations when people are doing like what you said, they're like, oh, what do I want to watch? And they see like Astralis versus Navi and like, the women's team, they're like, oh, those are at least organizations that I know those names. Do you think that then helps bring popularity to women's CS?
Definitely, because it's also about it's not only about the people that must come in just as viewers, it's also about like the potential new talents.
Mm.
Because if you maybe like imagine like hey I'm Heccu, I'm 10 years old and like I'm sitting and watching games like CS and I you know like I see like Astralis like the or uh like the shield maidens or javelins and I see like oh I actually can do that. That's like a really
Yeah.
prime example of like okay if I'll keep on doing, if I'll try to do like my best, you know, to become like a global elite, then like a level 10 and then maybe like grow higher and higher, improve like my skill. Yeah, it doesn't only show like legitimacy to the audience as that will be like as the spectators, but also to like the potential new talent, which will make the scene even better because the more people you have like that play it, the higher chance you'll have actually, you know, like this like 10% that is gonna be like really really good.
Yeah. And then so when ESL Impact came into the scene and like women's CS in the last year has like genuinely just exploded, did you expect it to actually grow this quickly?
I I was kind of hoping for it to grow this quickly. I did not expect, and it was like a really pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
But I was hoping, and I saw how it can have like the potential because I always give an example. For example, when it comes to, like to the Baltic scene, you know, like we used to like have no one from the Baltic states. Then like Rob's managed to succeed, and then all of a sudden we have like him as an example that hey, you don't need to succeed with a team. You can be like a really good individual yourself. So it's always like about like setting up that example. And right now, like with all of those catch cups, with all of this like impact, like with everyone like going to play, getting to play on lands, like on big stages, they're again like they're setting up an example and you're just getting like more and more players. Like I'm just uh it's like this, I'm just surprised of how quick they
Yeah.
went, you know. I was like okay, I was like from like here it's gonna go up, it's a matter of like how you know like the angle, and like it went like really real up. Like with the amount of the orgs that got interested, it's pleasant surprise, like a really pleasant surprise.
Do you think a big part of it, like rising up so fast and attracting so many players and so many organizations, is this new ESL Impact League brings so much more stability to a scene that in the past wasn't stable?
Definitely, because now, you know, you can do it for like actually like for a living. It's not. It doesn't become like as a hobby. You can if you know like the girls are getting salaries. Like oh now they don't need to like play CS just like in their free time and try to arrange a tournament like on their like holidays. Now they can actually like full on commit and you know do it professionally. So obviously like, having all of these orgs, ESL, and probably also in some kind of way it might help them when it comes like to their family because you know you show examples like hey
Yeah.
this is legit, I can do this for a living, it's not just for the guys, you know, it's like legit because even like it is okay maybe like in Denmark it's not a problem anymore for anyone because you know like they're like ah
Yeah.
CS
Like,
yes it's now it's
yeah.
basically our official sport and stuff like that, but in some other countries where you know it's not really like yet that common, at least like you get to like show the example and then I'm not saying that every parent will be like oh yes this is legit no problem spend 12 hours a day playing computer games sure, but at least in some scenarios and like with some parents it'll be you know maybe they'll be less
Yeah. It's like it's because the first example that comes to my mind is I did an interview with her in Katowice was Poppins, the 16-year-old from
hmm
Brazil, and it's like as a 16-year-old, my parents were like, you know, esports because like it's really hard to get success when you're that young normally, but like when you're like she's gone to 2 international events now and it's got all the stability, so I could see that as being like such a clear example of why having all these international events and the constant leagues and salaries like really help for parents. But something I do want to ask is that when Impact first got announced, was there any part of you that might have been like cautiously optimistic? Because it seemed really good on the face of it, but were you maybe a little bit scared that it would just be like a flash in the pan? Like you'd have one season or like the 1 year that they announced, and it'd be like, okay, that was cool, but that's it.
in a way again you know you are always you're hoping for the best and you're prepared for the worst
Yeah,
because a lot of things right now when it comes to esports when it comes to even like games themselves it's all about like that hype and a lot of things they explode like a firework and then it's gone, it's gone, and that's like also like kind of the only way uh you can work right now. It's nothing really like grows gradually at this point unfortunately.
yeah,
That's how it is. You just uh, if you try to grow gradually, you just get forgotten. You are being called like, oh, that that esports, that like whatever, like you're trying to work on. So yeah, I was just like hoping that the people that created this project will have enough passion to kind of like tank through like all of the problems because you know from the maybe tank like the people that are skeptical or like the lack of interest, so probably like right now they feel like super relieved by the results like and by like seeing the progress. Obviously it can a lot of things can still like improve, a lot of
yeah.
things can like grow, you know, because like, right now we have I believe only 8 teams playing in the LAN. It would be cool like then maybe at some point if we can get like to 12 or to 16 because at this point I'm not a biased European but it feels like 3 spots for Europe is not enough, you know,
I was,
but
yep,
it's not enough, but you also want to give opportunities to other regions. You still like want to help like Australia or South Africa like for them to have at least like 1 spot so their local scene is actually motivated in some kind of way like to do things right. So I'm just hoping that eventually we're gonna get to like to those like 16 teams. It will take time. We're getting that. We're you know yes. Okay, I'm not saying like we're working on it because ESL is working on them, but ESL is like probably trying to grow and improve in that direction. And I kind of forgot what it was. What did you even ask? Like I was
it
like,
was about just like cautiously optimistic of like this is really cool,
yes.
but like because in CS stuff happens fast, and like I could have seen a world where Impact had like a great year and like it got all the money, but it going from so good to then crashing down the year later could actually be a negative thing. And that was a thing that I was scared about, and it was really I was personally very happy to see that like didn't happen at all.
Yeah, same. I mean, and obviously for like all of the people that are involved, which includes the players, the talent, because a lot of talents actually like now got like to show themselves like through
Mm.
Impact. Like Lucy is like a prime example, you know, like she started with Impact and she's now working also with ESL. She's not working with Blast. Like she's getting a lot of opportunities. So, and then there's like a lot of people who are actually like behind the camera, you know, like so many people and like so many people who are really passionate about the project. So I'm really happy that like probably they feel relieved that, you know, like when it always sucks when you have an idea and you're like, okay, this is so gonna be so cool, and you show it to people and they're like, oh yeah, that's cool, and then they pass by and you're like, no, actually it's actually good, no,
Yeah.
come on, you know, like, but here you show it them and it was like, ooh, and you don't feel like you're forcing it upon. You're like, right? It's so cool, right? It's I'm just happy for everyone who's like
Yeah.
involved in it.
Because like it actually just worked. Like it just seemed like it's just working, and it's like it's only going up. But it's funny you mention the European spots, because for anyone who doesn't know, Europe has the biggest competition, I think, without even a shadow of doubt. It's got the most, it's the league with the most organizations, and it has like kind of all the best teams from it. South America would be a very close second, to be fair, when you like it, like they are very highly contested as well. So you raise a very good point then about as well, like you don't want to take spots away from the other regions because you still want to make it so that their local scene progresses. So what do you think right now, with it still being maybe like 8 teams, is like, what can they do in ESL and Impact to maybe give Europe more spots? Because it does feel like 3 is like not enough.
Yeah, but with 8 spots, you because listen, like you need to give 2 spots to South America because
Yeah.
they're at the moment they're like the second best region. Like when it comes to Asia, they have a good team. They have a good team. When it comes like to South America, they have like way more. And right now, even like to my surprise, I think Fury didn't even qualify for Dallas, and they used like
No.
to be. They used
Yeah.
to be like the best South American teams, but like now they lost Olga, and now Olga is playing in HSG, like the Asian team. So because you know it's getting even like more interesting. It's becoming like more international. But yeah, but so like you want to give like 2 spots to South America as for them being like the best second region. You want to give 2 spots to North America because if again you're taking away everything for them, you're not gonna get any kind of orgs there.
Mm.
NA is already struggling. Okay, we need to help them in some kind of way. If you just leave them like 1 spot, how will you attract organizations? You know, like it's gonna be like super hard. So that's already like four out of 8 are gone.
Be
So
5 because of Asia. So
I didn't count Asia yet. For now, like
yeah.
I was like I had like 2 North America
Yeah.
and 2 South America. That's like 4. So we're left with 4. So now it's a question like, hey, are you giving the all 4 rest to Europe? It would make sense in a way of the level that is in Europe, but then you're taking it from Asia, you're taking it from South Africa, you're taking it from Oceania, right? But if
Yeah.
you're gonna give to all of those regions, then you know, like more spots, more teams. That's what we need. Like find a way how maybe eventually to move away from like this challenger format, because that's how it is. Like if you look at
Hmm.
Melbourne, if you look at Rotterdam and any challenger, you have 8 teams that on day one. And here I am talking as a talent who gets like to live all of this. You have 6 best of 1s and you finish the day. It's like really long days. Okay,
Yeah.
it's really long days. When you have like elimination matches, yeah, I think you have like 6 best of 1s, and then you have a best of 3, which means you can have 8. No, you have like 9 maps. So minimum 8 and maximum 9 maps. But you also need to keep in mind, since there's only two sets of PCs on the stage, it means the game ends. The previous team needs to collect their stuff. The next team needs to set up their stuff, which means it's not a map after a map after a map. There must be a gap. So it's like super long days for the broadcast sound, for the people that work behind the stage, behind the cameras, for everyone, and for the players. Because imagine like you just played, maybe like you played the second series of the day, not the first one, but the second one, and then you're playing an elimination match, and you were like waiting all day long. So it's like not optimal. So I'm just like waiting for us to move from this like challenger format and to maybe more of like this like 16 team format.
Yeah, like a main Swiss type thing.
Exactly. Which obviously, I see like a lot of problems with that because most likely you will need more talent for that. That already increases your expense because like probably you'll have to do shifts and stuff like because you'll have like more days.
And more
Again,
setups.
more setups, more like yeah, like more days, more teams, which means more flights, accommodation. This obviously the expenses just increase by a lot. But I'm
Mm.
just waiting for us like to get m- maybe one event a year like that because when it comes to the guys, yeah, like they have Katowice has like a lot. Wait, not even 16, like 24. I don't at this point because there's also like the
24?
play-in. Because there's also like the play-in, and there's like the in Katowice you have a lot of teams. In Cologne you have a lot of teams.
24, yeah.
Uh, yeah, every IEM I believe. Yeah, only challengers like there's like 8 teams.
Yeah.
That's like the only place where you actually like get 8 teams.
And
So
they're
yeah,
qualifiers
yeah.
to
So
Cologne.
yeah, exactly. So I would say if we could maybe get one event at least a year where uh we can get like 16 teams. So that because like then at least those teams because when it comes like to Dallas, I believe in Dallas there's like one wild card spot, and it's like HSG, yeah, like they won it.
They're the Asian qualifier.
Yeah, exactly. So which means that like there's not gonna be a South African team or an Ocean because like I don't think they could play the Asian one, even though like
No.
they're relatively not far away, but still the ping is a problem. So yeah, like to have like that like uh 16 team event. So this way you get like those minor regions, they get their experience, they get their exposure, and maybe some local orgs will will support them. But also we're getting some better teams from Europe. Not only 3 teams. Okay, listen. I think that the teams that going from Europe to Dallas are really good. But I feel super bad for NIP
Yeah.
because they
Mm.
won against Nigma Galaxy and in Impact, and even right now like there was like players
The Players
uh
Without Borders
exactly, and they won there. So it's just
semi-finals against Nigma.
exactly, so which is absolutely crazy because like the first time you're like you got lucky,
Yeah.
you got lucky, and then you see it again, you're like uh,
Mm.
yeah, it brings up the question: did they get lucky? So right away, you want to see them on the LAN, but somehow, even though they won against the best team in Europe, the one that they kept on winning every impact, they end up not qualifying for impact, and you're like,
Yeah, it's like a ooh.
it was bad, man. It was
And
bad, man.
even like big, it's like they went 4-1 in the main group and still have lost out, and it's like it's a bit unfortunate. But then yeah, it's like it's a really hard one because you then add another European slot to Dallas, you take away a South Africa one. South African women's CS has basically then just been dead for 6 months because if you take away their one tournament of the year, that removes like what's the point of 80k staying in then? Like what gives them an incentive to keep hold of their team? So I feel like it's a really difficult one. And while we are still in this like we're still in the phase where sadly we only have 8 team events. What do you think ESL can do actually then potentially to try and promote impact in these smaller regions such as Oceania, such as South America, that have been like right now kind of like the unfavorable children? They've just been thrown out a little bit because their teams like aren't as good right now.
Yeah, because I know like, when it comes to Europe, there are cash cups, and I know there's a cash cups like in like in the bigger regions. I'm way less informed about the
There is,
cash caps.
there are, but they're less money as well than the Europe ones. I think they're like
Mhm.
$500 for South America, for South Africa.
Yeah. So maybe increasing, but it's it's really hard because I'm just like thinking if just increasing the prize pool is the answer because it is it or is it something else needs to be done? Uh,
More
the problem
tournaments, potentially like regional tournaments.
like more regional tournaments, but hmm, maybe like in partnership like with some local organizers because like o- for ESL to just purely make a women's tournament in South Africa feels like a little bit over the top maybe because like it feels like super small on the scale of ESL.
Mm.
Like obviously they like again uh just a disclosure, I am a freelancer. I don't work with ESL. I am not representing ESL, so don't get me into trouble, right? But I'm just talking talking my ass off. I don't know how. I don't know what's the phrase like they usually say around this. But yeah, I just like feel that maybe for that format, maybe if they could like cooperate with someone local, so they are not fully involved, but they are so showing some kind of support.
Mm.
Because like even like sometimes like sometimes just like media support is already good. If like people are talking and people know like that something is happening. Because um, I recall during Dallas. Uh, I had a conversation with ATK. They said like, oh yeah, like, we have a lot of teams, and those teams have more than 5 players because of the problem like the South Africa has like with electricity and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have an official, sometimes you have a prac, and a player cannot play because they don't have electricity. As a European, that sounds wild, but that's how they live, and that's why they need to have like more than 5 players so like, that person can stand in, which also brings up a question. um can you actually develop a like a good team in such environment? Because as we can see, like 6-man rosters are not usually a thing. A 6-man is actually like, okay, someone is gonna get kicked out and this is like, the guy who's gonna take the spot. That's how it works right now with the introduction of a NPL and all of that. That's how it is right now. Let's not sugarcoat it or even bid. Also, he was like he went in instead of Flamey, I believe.
And then Flamey eventually gets kicked, put on the academy team for a little bit, and then is at nine
Yeah,
pandas now.
yeah, exactly. So like right now, I do wonder when it comes like to specifically South Africa, how it is like. Is it like even like possible for them to develop like a really good team just because of the obstacles that they're fighting? Because it's I mean that's also like a problem not only for it's not a problem for like, the women's scene. It's also like a problem for the whole
For like
esports when it comes
yeah, for the whole of like South America. Sorry, South Africa
to
in general. Yeah.
exactly. It's a problem for all of them. And then you also have like visas because I think like they usually like need visas to go to
Yeah.
places. It makes it even more complicated.
It's a long.
Oh,
It yeah. It's just very complicated. It seems like the more you think about it, the harder it gets. It's like when
yeah,
there isn't an easy fix. But like it does as a spectator, it just does feel unfortunate to see two regions because I think because they do rely on Impact so much, the fact that Oceania and South Africa aren't involved in season 3 at all, I feel like does take a big hit to those regions. And something I want to talk about as well when it comes to organization. So Europe is filled with org teams. Like I'm pretty sure everyone but one team in Impact right now is orged, and like literally by top orgs. As we've said, Astralis, Navi. However, in America, in conjunction with CLG pulling out, there's only 2 org teams now in America. Do you think this creates potentially a little bit of a vacuum that's similar to the to like male CS as well? That we actually just will end up seeing all the best players come from Europe and South America because they have just the best support.
we might. I I think I definitely think that might be the case because even when we are looking at the roster of CLG Red, they have. a French girl and they have an Australian. They're already like not a full North American team. Uh, when it comes to, I mean, South America does not need to get anyone into their team because uh, the language barrier, and plus they have a lot of good players, so it's not a problem for them. But yeah, we can see like a prime example when it comes to HSG in Asia. They just got Olga from South America. They're like, hey, we cannot get Anna, who is like the best player in the world. We're gonna take the
Yeah.
second best
So
one,
it's
and
just like,
yeah, she speaks English, so like that's easy. So yeah,
yeah,
that's how it's gonna be. But we're not really here to actually like find the best solution because it is a problem for people who are maybe like more specialized.
yeah,
Because I look at it and I have no idea. How do you solve it? How do you
yeah.
fix
It's a
it?
difficult one.
I
Mm.
don't know. Really, in all honesty, I have no idea. When it comes like, okay, we're talking about like cash cups. Okay, maybe if those cash cups maybe will get brought again. I'm not sure if they are being broadcasted. Are there talents
Not
that are
official.
broadcasting?
It's cash cups all tend to be like community. So like they like the IP's open. It's like open, and
Yeah,
someone
it's
just
like a
picks it
Go
up.
TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe if hey, you have the community who is like willing to cast on their own, and maybe ESL can somehow coordinate with them, so like ESL will be ready like to give the platform to do like more like a official, more like so for it to like look more serious, which will be good for the scene and also for the talent. The upcoming, because like probably it's gonna be like
Mm.
an upcoming talent that like just wants to build a CV to show like,
Yeah.
hey, I understand CS. I'm good at talking. If someone needs me, I'm
Hit me
here.
up. Yeah, that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that could be a solution to kind of give
Mm.
like a bit of more spotlight to those like little regions. So, because yeah, it's way easier to give spotlight than actually give finances because when it comes to finances,
That's
it, it's
yeah.
not hard.
It becomes that gets you get into like a little bit of a sticky one. But okay, so
Yeah.
we've spoken a little bit already about Nigma Galaxy. They are very dominant, however have been slightly dethroned, just slightly. They haven't like, I think it's not yet like we can't say just yet because I think the upcoming Impact one will really show like if they lose that. But Katowice was the first event that it really felt like Nigma Galaxy weren't untouchable. Like it seemed a little bit close. What were the reasons, do you think, for other teams catching up and a team like NIP now having caught up?
I that's a good. If I had to guess, it's probably kind of when it comes like to Nigma Galaxy, probably the reason why they managed like to like just crush everyone now like for like at least like a year. Right now we have see like some exceptions with the like with NIP, which is like still like a shock. Uh, because like they had a lot of like talent, like even like raw skill. So they have like both. They have the experience of Vilga and they have the raw talent like of the players and they have like the best opera in the whole like scene, so they have
Hmm.
like that combination. So like but probably right now if I had to guess also we are getting to see a lot of new faces.
Yeah.
Vilga has been here like before COVID, it doesn't matter like, what, but now like you have like a lot of teams that are brand new. they they did not play like in 2019 and those like Copenhagen games, right? G2, yes, they have like the experienced Giuliano, they have Zaz, they have like those ladies, but not every team is like that. And probably it's a matter of those teams just actually getting experience and like knowing like how like to do things, how to coordinate as a team, like those little things.
The
Yeah.
little things, they just like take time to kind of like just get going. And so Nigma Galaxy's dominance at the start, like it was kind of ridiculous. They dropped like 2 maps in a year. Like it was really dominant. Do you think that was a good thing, or like it was a good thing for the team because it made teams like work harder to catch up, or do you think it could have been a little bit negative because every team was like, oh, we're not going to win because Nigma Galaxy is going to win?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing also for Nigma Galaxy because if you're just winning everything, you're like, it's not even a game. It's like so easy. We're gonna just come to another tournament, just farm. So now the fact that they are actually getting a little bit sweaty, like, oh,
Mm.
this time it worked out, but maybe next time it's not gonna be a 2-1. It's gonna be like an 0-2. Like, who knows? Because it because it also always like comes like to the rounds because sometimes you can win a 2-0, but maybe both of the maps were OTs, which means you could have lost it as like a 0-2.
Mm.
You can never know. So like it's also like the fact that they lost those maps is good for Nigma Galaxy, but also it showed like to the rest of the scene that they're not like so in like absolutely untouchable. There's like no point of even like trying to get close to them,
Yeah.
like no point. And also I think it's also like a pretty cool challenge when like you're like, but maybe we gonna be the ones to beat them, like, but
Yeah.
wait, but maybe like they sound like we got like 10 rounds, but next time who knows, 14 and we'll be all 16 team, like, so
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that as well Nigma Galaxy is like a wake up call to themselves? Like it's good for the scene, but also for themselves, they're like, oh wow, like we need to get like we actually might lose our pedestal.
I mean, probably because so far, I mean, no one could stop them at impacts. It didn't matter if it was like in Dallas, it was Valencia, it was Katowice, it was Jönköping. It didn't matter. They were just lifting the trophy every time. The only change was that at the last one, they actually played against Navi Javelins because
Yeah.
previously they were playing against Furia every time. This time, Furia like made the wrong step, end up playing against Nigma Galaxy, not in the grand final, but in the semifinal. So yeah, but I mean the fact that even like now that the second team can like not be like Fury, and like now we are guaranteed the fact that Fury is definitely not gonna be the second best team at the next event because they didn't even qualify.
It's
And
yeah.
now, I mean, like Olga is now gonna play for HSG. So previously they were like so good. Maybe this is like the little push that they were lacking, and so now all of a sudden, you know, maybe they're gonna be even better than South America. Who knows? Now it's
Yeah.
like makes it like more interesting. You still have this like talk about okay, Nigma Galaxy undefeated, but NIP managed like to tickle them. Like to like some nerves. They're feeling
Mm.
like maybe not so confident as before. So there's like a lot of still like storylines, but also
Yeah.
like new things.
So do you think so like do you think then there is a chance that Nigma Galaxy might not win in Dallas upcoming in like it's very soon actually, right? It's like just right around the corner, the season 3 finals.
It is, I believe, after the major.
Yeah, just after the major.
Because it's like during the IAM Dallas. So like
Yeah.
IAM Dallas starts, and then a few days later, when the expo starts, that's where Impact starts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I'm expecting, at least at the moment, is for Nigma Galaxy to play against Navi Javelins in the grand final.
Okay.
That's like what I'm expecting. Because like right now, at the moment, at least, it feels like Navi Javelins is the second best team. They showed that during Katowice. Obviously they had like like oh, they had the support of the
Mm.
crowd, but I think in my opinion, I think when it comes like to the end of 2022, they were already like the third best team, not yet the second one, but the third best team because Fear was the second and Nigma Galaxy was the first one. But now, especially now with like Olga being out, I think they are the second best one.
Hmm. Do you
The
think
question is like,
HSG potentially could become second?
hmm. Second, now that's a hard one. I'm more wondering. I think there might be the third one
Okay.
because who else can be the third one? Maybe before like the South
Yeah, I was gonna say they're
American team.
looking good.
Yeah, because unfortunately, North America is not having the easiest time. At the last Impact, they
Yeah.
finished 7 and 8, I believe.
And it
Both
was
like
like it was stomps as well, 7 and 8. I think CLG at least went to like a third map, but like it was
yeah,
rough. Yeah.
it was rough. Then you have South America. Yeah, South America that is like really really good. Uh, so the question is like now that they lost, their region lost their strongest player, and like, if they can still contest for those like maybe like number 2 or number 3, but I know, like wait, who's like the third team? Oh, pandas, right?
Pandas, yeah,
Pandas,
the 9 pandas
nine
squad.
pandas, 9 pandas. But you know, like what I wonder if again, okay, again at disclosure to not get me into trouble because I'm just talking stuff. I do wonder, and I have no information, I do wonder if they will be able to actually go to Dallas, like when it comes to 9 pandas, because we need to keep in mind
Yeah.
that they need visas since they have Russian passports, and getting US visas with a Russian
Mm,
passport right now is really, really hard. So I do wonder if we will see 9 pandas in Dallas, or if we're gonna see what they played against Big.
big. Yeah, so would Big
Yes.
then replace them?
Technically, probably, if I had to guess, probably yes, because Big should also not have problems with visas.
No, they're all Spanish.
Yeah.
Like there's like the Iberian,
Esta?
like Iberian team.
Yeah, yeah. So like they should not. They have European passports. That's basically the idea. They should like not have problems. So yes. So 9 pandas are also like pretty good. They're pretty strong. Uh, they like this like the question like, oh, who's like the third team? Is it 9 pandas or is it HSG? But now the question is like if 9 pandas can even get that.
Yeah, I didn't even
Again, I
think
have no
about
idea.
that.
Again, like I have no information because when it comes to, for example, when it comes to Nigma Galaxy, and when it comes to Vilga and I think Tori, they were stressing us so much last time when we were trying to get visas. It took them so much time to actually when they came like to Dallas to like, to play on the big stage. They were like, "We're just happy we got to come here."
Yeah,
I mean, they won the whole thing, but in
yeah.
their mind, they already said like, bye bye to their tickets like so many times just
Hmm.
because like of how hard it's like to get a visa. So I do wonder like which third European team will actually get
Yeah.
to see.
That's actually a very good point, and I think that might actually just change everything completely. And so looking at Europe's,
Also,
oh yeah,
sorry interrupting. Again, have no information, have no
yeah,
idea. I do hope that HSG will also have no problems getting visas. Because again, when you are a team from Asia, you also might have problems with visas.
mm,
US is not the there is a reason why the real RMR, like the America's RMR, like, that was in Sweden.
'cause it's easier to get visas, and like it just overall works so much better for
Exactly.
players and teams.
Exactly. So like even though it's like the Americas RMR, which means North American teams and South American teams, it's like all of those players, it's like way easier to bring them to Europe than to have something, for example, in the US. This time, like for example, Blast, they decide to do it in Mexico, which is also like an alternative. That's
Hmm.
something also works. Just because how complicated it is when it comes to like travel, like when it comes to US.
Yeah, it's very
And
difficult sometimes.
and then they're like, hey, make more events, please guys, come here, make more events. It's so hard because you cannot bring people.
Mm. Like it gets very difficult, and I think that's like sign that people just don't realize of like how hard it is actually to physically be there. But so we were talking about Europe quite a bit. G2 Oya, and you mentioned them as well. I got experience. They were the old queens of women's CS with Zaz and Juliana. Were you a little bit surprised when they didn't come in and dominate once again, or were you kind of expecting it to be that way?
I guess it's a little bit of both
Mm.
because you have like those names, you have so high expectations because Juliana, she just uh it's not like okay, Zaza had like a bit of a time off, but Juliana, she just won like the most important uh,
Yeah.
event like when it comes to Valorant. So basically, the equivalent of an event that she won like, in like a woman's scene in Valorant was basically, hey, she just won a major in that game, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna go to a different game.
Yeah.
That's basically what she did.
She won Game
So
Changers, right? In Berlin,
yes,
I think it was, yeah.
exactly. Also with G2. So
Mm.
it was like a big surprise the fact that she decided to go. Again, I have no idea. Was it her decision? Was it someone else's decision? Was it organization? There's like always a lot of politics. Yeah.
So many decisions, yeah.
so many decisions. Like I don't know if it was her decision or someone else's decision, but yeah, but she decided she ended up now like playing back, coming back to CS. So yeah, it's like a mix of you kind of have like high expectations because of the name and also because recently of the recent achievements, right?
Mm.
But also you have that feeling of, well, while you were away, the whole scene for like a whole year was really growing.
Yeah.
And coming back to like what we were talking about, I don't know how long ago at this point, maybe like 20 minutes ago, like how exponentially it was growing, because it's like the scene has been growing not only when it comes to numbers and the people that are following and the people that are interested, it also the level actually increased by a lot. So you cannot,
Mm.
like come back and expect the same level because of how much attention this whole
Yeah.
thing got.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was like, I don't know, they might be good, but like they can't just slot back in and still think they're the best. I remember I heard about it at Katowice that they might be coming back to CS, and I was like, no, surely not. Really? And it like
Yeah.
properly shocked me. But looking at CS2, do you think CS2 and a big update like this is going to benefit the women's scene and like actually maybe bring some new players in?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually,
Or do you think it will just be like a nothing, like they just continue?
so I mean, the question. I don't think this is a specific question when it comes like to women's scene. I think it's just like all to the scenes themselves.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it's gonna be the same way for like for men's scene, like and for the women's scene. Uh, so like I'm not even sure if it's how it is gonna change for the men's scene.
Yeah.
But I think the way how it's gonna change for them is the same way it's gonna be a kind of women's
Yeah.
scene. In that way, it's just like it's not different in any way, you know.
Mm.
So it's like a really it's a really hard question because I feel like it might have a bigger impact on the men's scene than the kind of women's scene, because we have a lot of new players that are right now already in the scene, and that
Yeah.
it will bring new players. So in some kind of way, it will not change a lot. When it comes to the men's scene, like they have like, so many players that have been playing the year for the game, like they're like 32, they're 34, they're 30. Like
Mm.
they're so used to like one kind of game, and it'll be like so hard to like for them to adjust. So someone who is younger and is like way more flexible in this regard will come in and take their spot.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the women's scene, like yeah, we have some veterans, but there's not an insane amount of them as is
Mm.
like in the men's scene. So I can imagine how whoever's like playing right
Okay.
now, the woman in the women's scene, like they'll be like Poppins, who she's like 16.
Yeah, like
She'll be like, I'm just switching the game. Yeah, it's like switching the game as like she's going to Valorant, but like
as in
yeah,
like to CS2, like just like a
yeah,
okay.
exactly. Exactly. Okay. No game. Okay. Okay.
That's yeah. I didn't even actually think about it in that way of like Impact does already have the new players, whereas like the male scene is going to be a lot more of a turnover because they have the veterans. The women's team just doesn't quite have that
That
many
many percentage
veterans.
wise, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so it's like that is I didn't even think about it in that way of that just like the women's seed will probably be able just to switch over so much quicker and so much easier and it'll actually be a lot more streamlined. I didn't even think about it. That's a very interesting point. But closing on up, I'm coming towards an end. Heccu, do you and would you have any words to anyone who is potentially trying to do kind of similar to what you do, like hosting and interviewing at like the highest level, or any women's pro that is also trying to come through the ranks? Do you have any words to anyone, like words of wisdom?
so basically what I would recommend.
What you maybe would have want to heard when you came up?
Hmm, Give me a second, because there's like one thing that always triggers me. That's I don't know, like nothing triggers me more than when people say uh try to blame maybe uh, like their country, especially when I know that that's like not the case. Okay, again, when it comes to South Africa, I can see how, like, for example, they can have problems, right?
Yeah.
They legit can have problems. Like if you want to be like a talent, but you sign up like to cast some kind of tournament, and all of a sudden you don't have internet and you
Yeah,
don't
it's like
have electricity. Like there's like in such countries there's like not a lot of things unfortunately that they can do. But then you hear the same things from someone who is, as an example, from Latvia, like, oh, this is a small country, you cannot do achieve anything there. Blah, 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 blah. It triggers me always like so much because you're just trying to find like an excuse.
yeah,
So what I would say is like, don't look for excuses. Just try to find ways of doing things. And if you wanna be, for example, like a talent, or you wanna be an interviewer, or you wanna be a caster, whatever you wanna do, try to do it and try to be involved like on a smaller level. No one jumps into tier one right away. Obviously, it would be like an amazing dream, but unfortunately, that's not how it is, right?
yeah,
And trust me, in most cases, for 9 people out of 10, or maybe it's to like for like 99 people like out of 100, you don't actually want to be thrown into tier one right away because you will not be actually ready. So that's why like it's way better to like gradually like learn to like adjust to do like all of those things. So yeah, if you want to do like interviews, do what Grim like this guy is doing, right? You try to find a way to do the to showcase that, oh, I am capable of doing a good interview, because that's like basically the same thing that I did. Like I did this like online. I went like to events. I wrote like DMs to people, like to players, like, hey, can I make an interview with you? That's what you do. You try to figure out. No one will give you anything. That's what we need to face. And it's like everyone is saying this, but that's how it is. No
mm,
one will give you anything. You just need to find like a way of, like of doing those baby steps. You will not be like right away like a broadcast down like in your studio, like all of this like, good morning everybody. It's just like baby steps. You need to
yeah,
find a way of doing it them. And obviously you like right away you want to maybe like interview simple, or you want to cast Navi against FaZe, but that's not how it actually works, right? You start, uh, when it comes to me, like I started with FPL, FPLC players, uh, academy players, because they are really interesting players in those places, and I know like, and I see a potential in them. So it was like really cool like to get to talk to them before they get big.
yeah.
Imagine like getting to talk to Simple like 10 years ago when he's like playing, I don't know,
Flip side.
yeah, something like that, or like even more, just like with someone like at the root. It's like super cool because afterwards you get to know, like you get to grow together with them. Because right now when it comes to Mouse, I come to an event and we're like, hey, like, family gathering, everything's like so cool, and it's like always so easy to
Yeah,
make interviews with them because like we started at the bottom and now we're at the top, like
yeah,
all of this like music playing when we're like all happy. And this like I'm talking about like when it comes to interviewing. When it comes like to casting, again, like for example, Lucy is a prime example of hey, she was like casting the games on her own, and then like Impact started growing. She got invited to do the official broadcast. Uh, Now she's like getting to do like ESL. She's getting to do Blast just because she showed interest in like a smaller thing, and especially like if you get to be like a specialist in your own little thing, you are way maybe like more interesting like to be like invited. For example,
yeah,
uh if for example you've been like casting all of the like, cash cups. Imagine you'd be like, casting all of the cash cups in Oceania, uh basically all of them, right? You'll be like invited to Impact as a specialist because hey, all of a sudden Impact is now at 16 teams, and we don't know anything about maybe the new ATK, if there's like a new ATK, or like mind things. Like we don't know nothing, and you'll be like, oh yeah, like this one, she's so legit, she's so good, and you already have like storylines. So like, that's exactly how I got to do my first season of Vplay because I was so involved like in those upcoming players. So they invited me as a host, and worked out for me because I already knew the storylines. I didn't come
mm,
Regali. What do we know about Regali? Or like
yeah,
Torzsi, like what do you know about them? I could actually tell things and then ask, for example, my analyst, like, do you think this is the reason? And then like, oh yes, exactly, like we saw this, and then like they
Yeah.
involve the information they gathered during the game. So the more unique knowledge you are capable of getting, the better it is. So first, so let's make
That's a
conclusions.
recap. Okay.
Let's a recap. No excuses. Try
Okay.
not to have excuses. Okay, like actually like sit down and figure out, do you actually have a reason to have excuses? In most cases, no. Some, unfortunately, yes, but no excuses. Then start from the bottom, go to the top. There's never a small enough job. Maybe just your ambitions are too big. Just lower them down.
Lower your
Just
ego.
lower your ego. And the last one is try to find your niche. Try to find like
Yes.
your speciality. Try to find something that makes you special in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to for example, like I am Rio, right away we have Peacemaker. Not only because he's a good analyst, but because he can provide like so much information about the Brazilian scene. We're in Brazil and things like that. Hey, maybe you can have like a lot of information like about Asian teams. You know, like that's usually, for example, what I think Bled does. You know, when it comes to like
Yeah.
Oceania and it comes to like Asia, he's like the specialist of that. So like if you can find something, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, because like then you'll be not just another voice. You're gonna be another voice with youth information.
Yes, find your niche. I think that is the one I'm going to drive home because that's like this whole channel is built on find your niche. Like, do something, find a niche, get in like analytical, as especially a lot of stuff we do on the other parts of the channel of like find the analytical side of stuff, and like it's maybe quite niche, but like that's what sets you apart. And yeah, like this is I was just thinking as well, like this channel is slowly collecting like a quote book of inspirational quotes, because we always ask at the end of interview, it's like, oh, so what do you have to say? And like everyone comes out with something like really inspirational, and so far it's been like loads of different stuff. So at the end of like in like a month's time, I'm gonna collect all the inspirational quotes and like put them together and like have like what everyone has said and just like write like a book about it of just like inspirational quotes from In the Crosshair. But speaking about In the Crosshair, it's been a pleasure, Heccu, to have you on. I didn't expect this episode to go on for this long, so I apologize for taking up too much of your time, but
Oh
thank
no,
you.
it's
Yeah,
good. It's good. It's good.
yeah.
It's
So,
good. Like, this time we didn't have the batteries. We didn't have to stress out. As long as our internet as long as our internet works, and as long as we have electricity, we can do
we're
this.
smiling. Yeah, I remember like last time it was very stressful being like, God, we just have to finish this. And like, I didn't want to finish it. You didn't want to finish it, but we had to finish it. But it's all turned out for the best because we are here. So thank you very much, guys, for for tuning in and watching this episode. And make sure you do as well stay tuned for next week, because we've got something very exciting and it's got something to do with the Paris Major. So thank you guys very much, and I hope you have a good week.